I have pure autonomic failure.
I have a type of dysautonomia called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS.
I have both POTS and EDS.
The type of dysautonomia that I have is neurocardiogenic syncope. It's also called vasovagal syncope, and I also have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
I was diagnosed with autonomic dysfunction in my early 20s. Then I got the diagnosis of POTS in my 50s. So I've been diagnosed for quite some time and on medication for 42 years.
It took me about 5 years to actually come up with a diagnosis that made sense.
From when my symptoms first appeared, it took me about a year to a year and a half to get diagnosed. But it was about a year and a half of going to different ER visits, coming back with tests, no answers, different cardiologists that wouldn't even walk in the door to see me.
Getting to the diagnosing part was very frustrating. People trying to tell me that my daughter was on drugs or was depressed, when I knew in my gut there was something more. We just didn't know what it was. So once I had a diagnosis, I had something to work with, and we could go forward.
It took me 6 years to get diagnosed.
So for POTS, it took me 2.5 years, and for EDS, it took me 4. It took a very long time to get diagnosed with both, so it's very difficult.
So we went for 2.5 years without a diagnosis, and at that point, someone actually saying what we believed, because it took us a long time, and I did a lot of research, and I came up with 3 things that she may have, and POTS was one of them. And when we finally went to a cardiologist and she told us that, yeah, your daughter has POTS, at that point, it was just like, oh my God, somebody believes, not just me, but my daughter, and somebody can tell me what's happening.
My symptoms change, and I think that's pretty common for people with dysautonomia. So what my answer is today isn't necessarily what it will be tomorrow or even in 5 minutes.
I think I wish people understood more about what dysautonomia is and how it can vary so much from person to person, because you can have 20 POTS patients in a room and they can have similar symptoms, but then everyone can have a different unique symptom that they don't necessarily share with anyone. And other medical issues can predetermine that they can stand longer, do different things longer. And so just understanding that it's not a cookie cutter diagnosis, and so everyone's not going to be the same. Every treatment doesn't work for everyone. And then just because we might look great one day doesn't mean that the next day that's going to carry over.
Just because I look fine doesn't mean that I am fine. Just because I'm talking to you and I look normal doesn't mean that I'm feeling okay. Because people come up to me and like, wow, you look great. I mean, you're completely cured, aren't you? And I'm like, wait, no, it's not like that.
Dysautonomia is not a choice. It's not about thinking positively. It's not about trying harder. It is 24/7. It looks different in every patient. It looks different from minute to minute. We are constantly struggling with our symptoms, whether you know it or not. We're not going to tell you. And that dysautonomia, even though there are forms that aren't fatal, it is a life stealer.
The biggest challenge is trying to get used to not being a complete person. You lose the ability to do things that you, I guess, took for granted before, like going for walks, going up and down stairs, and people look at you, and wonder, why, you can't do anything, because on the outside I look fine, but on the inside I'm not fine. And I think getting that across to people is difficult too.
Because of lack of understanding, many of us are estranged and alienated, and that shouldn't happen.
Because of it, I've been able to grow so much as a person. I love the person that I am now, like mentally and emotionally, And I feel like I'm just in such a good place, and I feel confident and just like myself, rather than I'm like putting on a mask for other people, which feels really freeing in a sense.
So the best thing is I've learned to be happy and grateful for the tiny things that most people take for granted.
The best thing is hopefully I'll have it and my kids won't. That's the best thing. If it keeps that from happening, I'm good.
If there was a cure for dysautonomia and we were able to see that happen, it would enable those who have suffered with this illness, who have seen what are the most important things that matter in life, to live again and to be able to do those things again.
If there was a cure for dysautonomia, it would completely change my life. I could work again. I'd really just have more options. Even my family planning with my husband, right now I'm too sick to have kids, and we have decided for the time being that that's just not something we can pursue. And we may decide we wouldn't want to do that anyway, even if I did magically get healthy overnight. But I would at least have more options there, instead of feeling like my illness is dictating what I can and can't do.
It would change it immensely because I would be normal again, and I could have a life, and I could work up until I retire, rather than not being able to.
I feel like if a cure was found, I would be able to achieve all of those goals that I've been racking up over the years. There's so many things that I want to do, so many things I want to see, so many things I want to read and write and whatever. But right now it's so hard to do that, and I want to do all of these things. I want to learn all of these things,